Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with everyone's favorite Thursday show. It is Today in Sports Betting. And this is starting the weekend. And we've got UFC on Saturday night, and we're going to be taking a look at all the UFC action. And, of course, tomorrow we're going to be taking a look at the NASCAR doubleheader on Saturday and Sunday. But, of course, what would a show be without my one and only co-host, all the way from the great state of New York? He is Scott Reichel. Scott, I know you're just kicking back and watching a little golf today. How's that going?
That's actually incorrect. I've actually not been able to watch golf, and I'll go into that rant in a bit. My morning's been okay, I guess. Definitely not as good as Mackenzie Hughes' morning. But we'll get into that briefly. I'll wait until after we introduce our guest to do my rant, because I got a couple minutes of material here.
I'll see. We should have rehearsed, because I was going to set you up right off the bat, but we'll bring in the Willster first. He's a sniper on so many sports over at winnersandwhiners.com. He's our esports sniper. He's our UFC sniper. He's a pretty fair NASCAR guy as well. You know him, you love him, all the way from the Crossroads, Clarksdale, Mississippi. Everybody, it is Winning Willy, Will Moorman. How are you today, sir? Good to have you with us.
Oh, it's great to be here. Great to have a working internet, you know?
You got yourself upgraded there. You got some new cans with the string, right, buddy?
Yeah. I got a new modem. I think I'm ready to rock.
Well, that is fantastic. It's good to have you here for the first of it's kind of fitting. NASCAR's going back to back this weekend, and you're going to be going back to back with us on Thursday and Friday. So, welcome aboard. This is going to be fun. You know, we were taking we were talking a little golf before we got rolling here. Are you ready now, Scott? Is this it? Is this the time?
Yeah. I think it's about time for the rant.
All right, Scott has some issues today with golf and the accessibility as far as being able to watch the tournament goes. So, Scott, share your thoughts if you would.
Okay. So I understand conceptually that everything is now becoming a streaming service, and how you have to pay extra to get access to whether it's certain fights on ESPN Plus or whether it's going to be, Netflix subscriptions to shows and stuff like that. I get it. And that kind of applies to NBC Sports with the Golf Channel, how they want you to pay extra to get access to golf throughout all 4 rounds, etc. The question that I have, it's Thursday. There's nothing on TV. There's no basketball. There's no baseball. There's obviously no football. You assume that if a golf tournament starts at 5 a.m., you should probably be able to watch golf on TV for at least the morning or the afternoon. You literally have a golf channel, which is the sole purpose of showing golf on television. The question I have for you, Scott, it's kind of rhetorical, but I want your opinion. Does it make any sense to have the start of a golf tournament on Thursday, which starts at 5 a.m., and yet you don't start your TV coverage until 3 p.m. in the afternoon? How do you have 10 hours of unaired golf on television, not on television?
It's
10 hours?
It's the beef that I have with every tournament except the majors. Is
10 hours.
Yeah.
How do you have 10 hours? You have people on talk shows on the Golf Channel talking about the tournament that you're not showing on television. It's 10 hours. I understand if you want to skip until like 9 a.m. because from 5 to 9, maybe people are sleeping, because people aren't really going to work that much anymore. So you might want to say, we'll skip the early bird special from 5 to 7. From 9 o'clock to 2:59, you really can't show any golf on television? You're missing about 80% of the golfers.
In fairness, folks, he did say it was rhetorical.
I'm just saying. Does that make any sense to you? I get the idea that NBC Sports wants you to pay like $8 to watch golf every day for that amount of time period. But how can you be the Golf Channel and not show live golf for 10 hours?
Okay, so do
you agree with me here? Or am I nuts? Am I losing it?
Yes, I think every golf tournament should be on from the time it starts. I'm with you. If you don't want to start it at 5 a.m., okay. But you certainly –
At least 9 a.m.
Yeah, you certainly need to there's no reason for it not to be on. There's absolutely no reason. Just like you said, you've got people on the Golf Channel sitting there talking about golf. My guess would be, but I think you've already hit the nail on the head, Scott, is they're trying to make it into a pay model.
Yeah, I get why they're doing it, but the issue that you have is golf fans, right? There's nothing on TV, kind of like what UFC did. UFC originally had a bunch of ESPN Plus ideas, and then because of Corona, they basically have decided to move each of the last 2 or 3 UFC cards to regular ESPN because ESPN literally has nothing to show besides movies with commercials in it. So if you want to watch Rookie of the Year or Air Bud with commercials, or you want to show the actual UFC card, they decided to actually show the live sports instead. And I feel like the Golf Channel would get a lot better viewership if they were actually showing live golf. The thing I don't understand is it's one thing if you have a feature group that's going to be starting at like 3 o'clock. You have your Justin Thomases, hypothetically speaking, I know Tiger's not in the tournament, but you have your Tiger Woods, your Phil Mickelsons teeing off, and you're like, all right, we're going to show you all 18 holes of them. You have Rory, you have DeChambeau, and you have Phil Mickelson, and they tee off at 7:50 in the morning, and you're not going to show anything, and you have Justin Thomas who's teeing off right now, and you're going to catch his back 9. What? You're not showing anything.
So, full disclosure, Scott mentioned the fact that he got up extra early today. So he's had a while for this little rant to percolate.
Do you know what it's like to watch a round 1 matchup on the leaderboard,
right.
Gamecast?
I'm starting to put this together. Scott, Did you get up at 8 o'clock this morning to watch golf?
I got up at 9 a.m. and the matchup that I was in the middle of, they were through 9 holes each. They were halfway through the course. And I'm trying to find online streams. I'm trying to find anything. I'm stuck looking at the PGA website, and they're giving you like bullet points telling you where the ball landed on each stroke. And you got to go through the game cast. So that was my version of the morning watching a matchup.
I want Willy to weigh in here. Willy, are you on board with us about every hole should be on TV basically?
I mean, yeah, I agree, but at the same time, if you notice the NBA, the NFL, all of them are starting to move to where they're trying to make us pay to watch things. And I get their marketing, but at the same time, does golf really even have that big of a following to be able to pull that off?
That's a great question. Although they do it they have a pay model with the Tour de France as well.
I don't know who watches that either.
Funny story, and we'll talk about it sometime. My wife is a massive fan. For the first 3 weeks of July, she's just out. She's Tour de France, watches every minute of every race.
I cannot name one person right now who's actually in the sport.
I can name many. And funny story, she does not ride a bike, does not know how to ride a bicycle.
Okay.
Okay.
I watched the Olympic swimming, and I can't say that I can set a world record in swimming. I know how to do a butterfly, but I'm not going to do it in the pool.
But you could swim without drowning. See, my wife could not ride a bicycle without falling over.
I feel like anybody should know the doggy paddle. I feel like that's the first thing they should teach you.
I'm with you. Hey, let's talk a little UFC. What do you think?
Switching gears to something that's actually going to be on television for all the fights.
Speaking of segues, we don't have. We've got. What do we have? So we have 10 fights to take a look at, right?
Should be. It could potentially be 11. They ended up removing one of the fighters in one of the fights we're going to talk about in a little while. Their UFC is still looking for a replacement, so there is a potential for that fight to be salvaged. But as of right now, you're pretty much looking at 10 fights.
All right, so let's get to rocking and rolling here with the first.
Actually, it might be 11 fights right now. Actually, I think it's 11 right now, and there was supposed to be 12, and now it's currently looking like 11.
Okay.
I think.
We'll count them out.
Either or, that's just semantics. That's fine.
Okay. All right. You ready?
I'm waiting. Yeah.
I feel like you're not over this golf thing, but we're going to have to just plow ahead.
I pushed in my matchup, so it could have been a lot worse for me this morning.
Okay. All right. So here's a fight. We're going to start with the first fight of the evening, which is going to be on the undercard. And this is 2 ladies that are going to be making their UFC debut, Kay Hansen and Jenyun Fry. It should be a lot of fun. You've got kind of the grizzled veteran that has been around Invicta forever. She's actually been a champion over there, although she was stripped stripped of her belt last time for being overweight. But And then the 20-year-old Kay Hansen, who's going to be the second youngest person on the UFC roster. So, Willie, you excited about this one?
Not really. I can't say that I know a ton about either one of these fighters, but I mean, at this point, I'm just I do like the card as a whole, though. I will say that.
You a fan of the overall card? There's some definitely should be some fun bouts on there, no question about it. This is Scott. If you follow the Phoenix series, which kind of the contender series, only on the Invicta level, Hansen, great story, young kid, great things expected of her. What do you think about this? I've got a thought on this one, but I want to hear where you're at first.
Well, for me personally, in terms of playing this fight, I'm going to pass. If I had to lean to anyone, I'd lean to Hansen. And simply put, the main reason is because of the fact that Frey is going to be making her UFC debut at the age of 35, and Hansen's making her debut at the age of 20. So I'm assuming the UFC sees a potential champion in Hansen, because I don't know why you would throw a 20-year-old into a UFC fight like this against somebody who has had a lot of success at Invicta in the past. I know Hansen had a couple of finishes, had a finish in Invicta in her second to last fight, followed by a decision victory. This matchup itself and the way that the line's currently setting up with Hansen being a minus 165 favorite, I feel like Hansen should win this fight. So I'd lean to Hansen. I have no interest in playing this, but I do think it's very interesting that they're both making their UFC debuts. One of the people are 35 and the other one's 20. And the 20-year-old's favored. So I'm starting to think the UFC might think they have a phenom on their hands.
Yeah, I like the price. I'm currently catching an open to Frey at plus 160. Currently got it at plus 140. I think there's value there, guys. Maybe I'm getting suckered in. And we talked about it. There was a sucker line last week, and we didn't fall for it. And maybe this is the same spot here. When they were fighting in Invicta, both of them were atom weights. They were moving up from 105 to 115. It seems like Hansen's probably going to be able to handle the weight gain better. That's probably closer to her more natural weights than Frey. But at the end of the day, I think Frey has the experience. Like I said, she's a past champion over in Invicta. 3 of her last 4 fights have gone the distance. I don't think there's anything wrong with her cardio. I think she outlasts the kid. I think the Wiley veteran prevails here. Give me a little value on Frey at plus 140.
So my question for you on that is that I do agree that I think that there's some value on Frey because of the experience angle. But doesn't that make you a little bit skeptical based on where the line's currently sitting because of the fact that you'd assume, without any lines, I'd probably assume Frey would be favored in this fight. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes, I was. And when we come back on Monday, I think you probably may have a great opportunity to say, I told you so.
That was actually going to be one side point I was going to make, because the question I had for you is that if the fight to go the distance is roughly minus 275, and I think you can agree that this fight should go the distance if Frey's going to win, don't you think you could also create some extra value if you just take Frey by decision? Which would be available at, what is it? It's at plus 187. Actually, you don't really gain much value at all from that, so that's probably a pass.
And what was that? What and so versus plus 140?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I'll check another book, but that seems to be what it's at.
Yeah, that's borderline.
That's not enough of it. You need at least plus 200 if you're going to play that decision.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I was looking at it as well. All right, so let's move on to the featherweight bout here between Jordan Griffin and Yusuf Zalal. And we've got, by the way, we have some fantastic nicknames. This is I don't know quality wise how this card is. It's going to be a fun card, I think. But as far as nicknames go, this is a pay-per-view nickname card for me. And we're going to start off here. Was kind of slow with the nicknames. We're going to start with Jordan Griffin, who is of course native psycho. We've had him talked about him before versus Yusuf Zalal, the Moroccan Devil, which that was my nickname in college, by the way. Weird, but so this is going to be a like I said, featherweight fight fighting around 145. Scott, what do you think about this one?
So for this fight, we did talk about Griffin before in the past. However, he actually did not even get to fight because the person he was supposed to fight ended up dropping out the day after we made the video. So he actually hasn't fought. So we did talk about him briefly, but that ended up not really mattering. This is actually one of my favorite plays on the card, and it's going to be on a prop that I found out about earlier this morning, actually. I already had my card set. I already had my play set, and then I found this nugget, and I thought that it was definitely worth a play. I like Zalal over 4.5 takedowns, which is available at plus 100 on Fox Bet. Now, that sounds extremely random, and it is, but I found some statistics that definitely back up that thought process. Simply put, Griffin has a history of submissions. He's pretty good at submissions. He has 9 submission victories. However, he is awful at takedown defense. So he's pretty good in terms of the submission defense, but his takedown defense is absolutely abysmal. And in his last fight against TJ Brown, despite winning by submission, he got taken down 7 times. And he had 0 stop takedowns. So his opponent went 7 for 7 in takedown attempts. And that was only through roughly 1.5 rounds before he ended up getting the victory by submission. Meanwhile, Zalal, in his last fight in the UFC, ended up going to decision against Austin Lingo, and he ended up having 6 takedowns in that fight. He went 6 for 12. So needless to say, Zalal likes to take down his opponents a lot. Very big threat from the submission perspective, as he has 5 wins by submission. However, Griffin has a lot of experience with regard to dealing with submission artists, and he has very good submission defense. But Zalal loves to take down his opponents, and Griffin is awful when it comes to takedown defense. So for me, I'm going to be taking Zalal over 4.5 takedowns, which is available at plus 100 on Fox Bet.
Okay, all right, that's solid. Willie, you a fan of the takedowns by Zalal?
I do like that play. I like that play a lot. And I was looking at this line just wondering, am I missing something here? Because you would think that Zalal would be laying more, given the reason this guy just touched on, that Griffin is just absolutely horrible at stopping takedowns. Meanwhile, Zalal is great at takedowns. It seems to me like this line is not as juicy as it needs to be, and I'm all over Zalal in this fight.
Well, one other thing to touch upon with regard to that, in addition to Zalal being a relatively short favorite, he was actually the original underdog in this fight, and you have had a favorite flip here, as Zalal has gone from roughly plus 105 to minus 120, and Griffin is now the underdog. So it seems like a lot of money is coming on Zalal. I expect him to basically ragdoll Griffin for 3 rounds. I do like that Griffin does have good submission defense, because I think you can make the argument that you might lose the takedown prop if there's an early stoppage. But in reality, Griffin's very good at stopping submissions, and Zalal, I feel like, will just constantly take down Griffin at least multiple times around. I think it should go the distance. I think Zalal will win, and I think he should probably have around, I'd say, 6 or 7 takedowns. So that's kind of my thought process on the fight itself. You have any thoughts on that, Scott?
Well, the part of that when you're looking for a submission or when you're looking for a takedown total like that is, and you briefly touched on it, is you've got to make sure that you're not going to have a situation where the fight ends early, or one of these guys is going to be a knockout guy, or going to be able to submit him in short order. And I think you've got it. I think that Jordan Griffin has the weird combination of having horrible takedown defense, but having good sub defense, and I think that's going to keep the fight. It's probably not going to be an exciting fight. Probably going to be a lot of lean-tos and whatnot going on. But I think that's a solid play. I don't hate the public play here. The public's driving that line switch. I'm not going to play this one personally. But gun to my head, I'm probably going to lean towards the now favorite Zalal at minus 120.
Imagine winning a fight despite being taken down 7 times in 7 attempts.
That's pretty amazing. That's
I mean that's how it works out with Griffin, though. Griffin is the kind of guy who gets taken down, and then while he's on his back, he goes for the armbar. Yeah. And he occasionally gets it, or he goes for a triangle, or he goes for a guillotine. So he prefers to be on his back, and I feel like Zalal should be able to basically ragdoll him. I don't know about Curtis Blades' quality ragdolling, but I think he should be able to get at least 5 takedowns in this fight. So that's where I see the value at.
7 takedowns had him exactly where he wanted him.
Yep.
All right. So
he was hustling him for the first 6 takedowns, right?
That's right. Playing a little rope-a-dope there. All right, moving on to a welterweight fight here between Takashi Soto and Ramiz Brahimaj. Do it, Scott. Tell me.
Honestly, close enough. I'll give it to you.
I would probably say Brahimaj.
Yeah, Brahimaj is the way I would pronounce it.
All right. Soto's nickname 10. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I guess that's how many fingers and toes he has. Congratulations. Very good.
Well, hopefully he has 20 fingers and toes, but yeah, fair.
Well,
I know. I'm messing with you. Yeah, I know.
really. All right.
I had to. Somebody's got to do it.
Willie, tell us about Ramiz and 10 going at it here in this fight of 170 pounders, give or take ish.
I think this is an interesting fight here because you got two fighters that are going to be trying to do opposite things here. You got one fighter making his debut, and he has all of his wins have come by submission, while Sato has knockout power. He's only had 3 fights go the distance, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be more of a cat and mouse kind of affair in this one because it's like I said, you got two fighters trying to do two different things here, and I personally want nothing to do with trying to bet on who's going to win. If I'm going to play this one, I'm looking for a total, maybe an over.
It's it's 2.5. It's shaded towards the under. It's minus 135 right now, under 2.5, plus 105 on the over side. And Sato is it Sato or Sato?
I think you go either way. If I had to guess, I would say
I bet you can't.
I bet you can't either. I'm not sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna call him Takeshi and Ramiz. I think is
well. That I think for a fact that would definitely be Takashi. So that for a fact I can tell you is Takashi.
And of course I did it right the first time that I introduced him. All right. Okay, so Takashi and all right, you know who they are. Takashi is the favorite, minus 130, and I like the. This is a tough one for me. It's always tough when you see a guy making their debut, and I'm looking at the UFC website here just to get the kind of the matchup stats as I do, and I don't know how long Ramiz has been around the under tours, as it were, but his picture here is in black and white, so I'm just saying he could be old.
He's 27.
I'm kidding. I don't know. I've never seen a black and white photo there before.
Just because he hasn't fought in the UFC. We talked about that the week prior.
Okay. No, I've never. No. It's not the black silhouette thing.
I thought that's what you're talking about.
No. It's literally a black and white picture of him.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was from the 1920s. Okay, fair enough.
He's wearing a fedora. So
nice.
Anyway. So that's you got the feelings on this, Scott?
For me, this reminds me a lot of the fight last week with Hubbard, where he ended up winning, where you had a newcomer to the UFC who pretty much only won by submission. I forgot his name. Rokov, the one who wanted to quit on his stool, and the coach kept yelling at him to keep going back out there. I ended up leaning to him to win by submission, and he ended up losing by a technical TKO in between rounds. I think it's a very similar fight. And the reason why I said that is you have one guy who prefers to do the stand-up and you have one guy who prefers to do the submission stuff. And I feel like it's a matter of which style you think will prevail. For me, I'm going to pass. Based on what happened last week, I feel like it's only fitting that the one time I don't have money on it, the submission expert's going to win by submission. Because it seems like it always works out that way. But if I had to lean anywhere, I'd probably lean to Takashi, just because he has the experience and I think that he definitely has a significant advantage in the stand-up, which should pay some dividends moving forward in this fight. I think you can argue either way, but at the end of the day, even though Takashi has had mixed results in the UFC with having a 1-1 record, he lost to Bilal Muhammad by submission, and Muhammad just beat Lytle Good, and I think Muhammad's actually – you remember him. Remember the name. Muhammad. He's a good fighter. So I don't think there's any real shame in Takashi losing that fight. So for me, I think Takashi might just be the better fighter. So I'm going to lean to Takashi, but I'll pass overall.
I think that's probably the way I'm feeling too. Although as match time approaches, I may get the itch and throw a little something there on Takashi. We'll see how the numbers.
If I was going to play a specific outcome, I'd probably lean to the underdog by submission, just because that's his favorite method. But at the end of the day, I'm going to pass, but if I had to just go with who I think is the better fighter, I think Takashi is the better fighter at this point in their careers.
I'll probably play Takashi knockout, would be my guess, and how I'll lean on that one. So,
Okay.
All right. There you go. Fair enough. All right. So now we're moving right along on the undercard here. This is kind of this is a fight of two guys that look like they should be working in the forest. As Philippe Monstro Linz goes up against Tanner, of course, the bulldozer Boser. This is going to be fun as Boser comes from Canada, and Philippe Linz, of course, hails from Brazil. Where do we start? Scott, start us off here. Who do you like in the battle of the big boys here?
Well, first of all, based on how the odds are trying to predict this fight, it seems like this fight is basically dead even, as both fighters seem to be minus 110 apiece at pretty much every book you look at. So it seems to be pretty even. Based on this fight, I'm not going to have any play on this because it's so even. But if I had to lean one way, I would probably look towards the total. And for that reason, the fight to go the distance is minus 188. And the over 2.5 is minus 213. So people think this fight will go the distance. If I had to lean anywhere, I would probably lean to Boser by decision. But in reality, I'm just going to pass. Linz, I had money on in his last fight against Arlovsky, and he ended up losing. Fight was close. Linz has some pretty good leg kicks, but that's pretty much all he does. Pretty boring fighter overall. And Boser, kind of the same. A lot of decisions. He's gone to decision 12 times in his 23 career fights. And he lost his last fight to Cyril Gain in December 2009, December 21st, 2019. But Cyril Gain, if you didn't know, is actually undefeated. So I don't think there's really any shame in losing by decision to an undefeated fighter. For me, you can go either way. I'll lean to Boser by decision, but I really have no interest in playing this fight at all.
All right, Willie, how do you feel about that? The best thing about Linz, of course, you know him from winning the PFL, the first heavyweight season. He won the $1 million. My favorite part of that is the guy that he beat. He beat Josh Copeland. Anybody know Josh Copeland's nickname?
I do not.
Willie?
I don't.
The Cuddly Bear.
That's great. That's good stuff. That's
Bear. Houston, we have a brand new leader in the clubhouse for absolute worst nickname. As far as it's a great nickname, least intimidating nickname.
Mm-hmm. That's why he lost.
That's why he lost $1 million. All right, so Willie Linz, he didn't look great against Arlovsky. I think Boser has definitely fought some great competition. Probably fought the best competition outside the UFC. What do you think of this one? Scott's not in love with it. I like Scott's play, but I like it a lot more than he does. I like Boser in a decision. Willie, talk me off the ledge here.
I'm actually kind of leaning towards the other way. I think this is going to be a slugfest, which it usually is when you get the heavyweights in the octagon. Linz has a slight reach advantage, but Boser has the weight advantage. So, I really think that somebody's going to sleep here. And Bovada doesn't have any exact result props out yet, but
you can tell me what you want. I can tell you what the line is.
I'm leaning towards the Linz by knockout. Because
I see plus 333.
I really think that this one is more or less a toss-up, and I really don't recommend anybody get down on it unless they just like to gamble. But if I was to lean anywhere, that's probably where I'm leaning.
The thing about Linz, though, is that even though he does have a reach advantage, he seems to be a pretty big kickboxer, at least from what I saw against Arlovsky. Didn't really use his hands much, which sounds weird. He threw a couple punches here or there, mostly just some haymakers that completely missed and wasn't even close. Linz seems to be the kind of guy who just loves to go for kicks. So I do agree that he does have a reach advantage. He doesn't really love to use the jab, though, which I think is kind of a mistake on his part, because if you have a reach advantage, you should be using your jab all the time. You know what I mean?
Well, it's similar.
I think.
Go ahead, Willie.
Well, I think in his fight with Arlovsky, I think he knew he was kind of outmatched a little bit, and he didn't want to overstep himself at the same time. I really think that he's going to really let it ride this time, and because this is a much more winnable fight in his eyes, I do believe.
Yeah, definitely true. Just a matter of, from what I've seen from a small sample size in the UFC, didn't really seem to use his hands that much. That was just my main takeaway from that fight.
He kind of reminds me a little bit of the guy we saw last week in Drago, another guy that's 6'7", but doesn't use that jab a lot. Doesn't use his hands a lot. So, Scott? What do you got on the fate of Willy, the Bozier to go to the distance?
Bozier to win by decision is plus 187. It's better than FanDuel. FanDuel's plus 160, so you get an extra 27 cents of value there if you want the plus 187.
Yeah, I'd probably like that. And
I mean, you're saving basically $1 because you get minus 110 at plus 187. So
yeah, again, you got to look at what is the most likely outcome if that fighter wins, and that's sometimes a great opportunity to add extra value. So yeah, all right. So let's move on here, shall we, boys? We're almost through the undercard. We're down to 2 now. This is the one that we talked about. One of the fighters will not be making it, and it is Mara Romero Barella was set to fight Miranda Maverick, which again, do you really don't even need a nickname there? But Scott, something happened to Maverick. What's up? Did she fetlock go bad on her?
She dropped out. She had an injury issue, so she's no longer on the card. UFC said that they're not officially canceling the fight because they're trying to find a last-minute replacement, potentially a day before, which seems to be a staple in the UFC at this point in time, where they always seem to be throwing in random fighters about a day before the weigh-ins. But, if there's any news about who's going to be replacing her, we'll report it. But as of right now, there isn't really any leads. So as of right now, assume the fight's not going to happen. But there is a chance that Barello could still be fighting on Saturday if they announce a replacement.
All right, very good. So we'll keep an eye on that, but that is something that we are not going to be able to handicap, obviously, without both sides of the card filled in. So let's move on to the main event of the undercard, if you will. We've got a couple of main event worthy nicknames here too, as Luis Pena goes against Karma Worthy. Luis Pena, in spite of I think he should be called personally Homeless Don Henley.
He's the leader in my clubhouse for nickname.
But he's got a better nickname than that. Scott, I'll let you do it.
He's the Violent Bob Ross.
The Violent Bob Ross, the painter from PBS back in the 70s and 80s. Violent Bob Ross. It is a fantastic world-class nickname. And he goes against a guy that brings it pretty strong in the nickname game as well. Willy Worthy, what's his nickname?
The Death Star.
The Death Star. Absolutely. So we've got Violent Bob Ross going up against the Death Star. Willie, how do you see this one? Does the Death Star, does he have that little opening there that Violent Bob Ross is going to be able to find? Pena's got a significant height advantage, going 6'3", that's monstrous for somebody fighting at 155 pounds. Willie, how do you got this one?
Okay, so I'll say it before I even start in this that I'm a big fan of Kama Worthy. I like his power. I like his hands. He can fight even for his size. I feel like he can compete with people bigger than him because of that. He's got his work cut out for him here, no doubt. But this will be kind of my long shot for the day. I'm looking for Scott. Do you have odds on a Kama Worthy by knockout?
Yes, I do. Worthy by knockout is plus 500.
Yeah, that would be my kind of long shot for the day. I mean, that's what I like Kama Worthy here. I think he can knock him out. I think he's good enough to stop the takedowns because we know that Pena is going to be looking for the submission more likely. But I think Kama Worthy can get in there and knock him out.
All right, very good. Oh man, you stole my thunder, Willie. That's exactly what I wanted to do. Worthy throws those punches from every angle under the sun. He was like a 650 plus 650 against Devontae Smith, knocked him out in the first round. I love that. I love that play. I'm thrilled there's that much value. I was hoping to get 350, 400 on that play, in the 500 range. That's fantastic. Yeah, love that place. Scotty, let's tell us why Pena is going to win.
So for me, I'm taking Pena to win by knockout or decision. Simply put, Worthy ended up having from an odds perspective, the biggest upset victory all of last year. And he ended up beating a very, very talented prospect in Devontae Smith. I still remember that fight card because it was in the middle of my fantasy football draft. So I do remember that. But overall, I don't really think Worthy's that great. I think that he's a decent fighter. He made his UFC debut last year at the age of 32. So he hasn't really had much success in the past. I do agree that he has a lot of knockout power. But in reality, I just think Pena is a significantly better fighter. Pena keeps fighting fighters beneath him because the UFC just keeps throwing him potential up-and-comers, which I think is unfair to Pena because I think he has the makings to be a potentially serious contender in that division. Going to this fight, I was going to lean to Pena by submission. However, Pena was actually in an interview earlier this week, and he said straight up, I don't think the ground game is going to be that involved. We're just going to stand in front of each other and trade until somebody goes down or until the bell sounds. That's basically his exact quote. I'm paraphrasing. So he basically said straight up, I'm not going to try to submit the guy. So for that reason, I'm going to take Pena to win by knockout or by decision at plus 100 on Fox Bet. I'm going to take his words at face value. He could be trying to set a trap, and he's only going to try to do takedowns. But if he says publicly, I'm just going to stand in front of the guy and just throw, I think Pena's reach advantage is going to mean a lot. And Pena also fights a very unique style. So for that reason, I think that Worthy is a little bit overmatched here in terms of talent. So I'll take Pena to win by knockout or decision at plus 100.
All right, I got to tell you, I'm even more excited about that play after hearing that quote.
Yeah, I know, because it gives you more value for Worthy. I think Pena is just such a better fighter than Worthy.
Okay, all right.
I could be wrong, but you can tell me I told you so over the week when we recap on Monday. But knockout decision plus 100, I'll take it.
It should be a good fight. Should be an entertaining fight for sure. So that's going to conclude the prelim card. And once again, all the fights are going to be on ESPN and ESPN Plus, Scott, or is it just ESPN Plus going to have?
It's on both, but everything's on regular ESPN, so you don't need ESPN Plus to watch any of the fights.
All right, so let's take a look here at the first bout of the main card as Sean the Sniper Woodson goes against Julian Juicy J Erosa. This is the kicking off. This is a catchweight battle. Which, Scott, maybe you could tell our folks out there exactly what that means.
So a catchweight is not actually a definitive weight class. What a catchweight is that's when both fighters can't exactly reach a specific type of weight. So instead, they kind of create a new temporary weight class just so these two fighters can fight each other. Usually, it's in between two weight classes. So, for example, usually it ends with a 5. So usually it's like 145 instead of 140 or something like that. They usually try to reach some middle ground so both fighters can fight relatively comfortably instead of having to lose the additional 5 pounds, etc.
Okay, very good. And how do you see this one? How do you see this one breaking down between Woodson and Erosa?
So for me, there's actually no real lines up right now, which is kind of frustrating me because I do have a lean on this fight, but I don't actually have a monetary value on it. I like Woodson to win by decision. Simply put, I just think Woodson's the better fighter. I think Erosa does have some talent. Don't get me wrong. Juicy J is not a great nickname though, so he kind of loses some street cred on that. But overall, in reality, he's lost each of his first 3 UFC fights. Not really looking that great ever since he earned a spot from the Contender Series on Dana White's program. But Woodson's undefeated. He's 7-0. He's a huge favorite at roughly minus 410, minus 480. Really depends on where you shop around. And I think Woodson's just going to pick him to pieces. So for that reason, I think that Woodson's easily going to win the fight. If I had to find any value out of it, I would lean to decision, but that line's not available, so I don't know what the line is. If it's anything around minus 120 or lower, I would take it. But if it's anything that's like minus 140, minus 150, easy pass for me. So I'm just going to wait it out.
All right. And Willie, you kind of feel the same way. We are flying blind without having current odds on this fight posted. I think it's the only one where we don't have current odds.
Well, for props, you have the money lines. You don't have the props.
I don't have money lines on this.
Oh, I see Woodson at like minus 550 on FanDuel and minus where is he at? Woodson. I see him minus 450 on Fox Bet.
Okay.
So
All right.
he's a huge favorite, but there's no props available.
Okay. See, and that's you're a step ahead of me because I don't have the anyway. All right. So Willie, how do you have this one? Do you have any value at all that we're able to find in this fight?
Yeah, I agree with Scott here. I think that Woodson's going to end up winning this fight by decision. He's got the better hands, I feel like, in this matchup, as well as pretty good takedown defense, which is going to come in handy against Arosa, who likes to go for the submissions. So, I'm with Scott here. It depends on what the juice is, because I have a feeling that it's probably going to be a lot of juice
I agree.
on him to win by decision. But if it's not, that'll be my play there as well.
I'm expecting like minus 140. I'm hoping for like minus 110. That's basically just what I'm hoping for.
Okay. All right. And I'm gonna have to make it 3. This is I think this is a mismatch talent wise, and Woodson he'll throw hands, and he certainly can land a number of significant strikes, but I think this one probably goes the distance as well. So it's certainly the only place you're going to find any value as laying that serious wood there on Sean, the sniper. So, all righty, let's move on the main card and take a look at Jean Vellante against Maurice Green. Another bout between the big boys. Scott, what is Maurice Green's nickname?
I cannot say that I remember.
The Crochet Boss.
I'll give him a 4 out of 10.
Only because we have Cuddly Bear. Is that not the most unintimidating nickname of the day?
Cheesecake still has a special place in my heart, but that's not a great one.
Cheesecake is absolutely there. So, Willie, this is going to be a fun fight. This is kind of the first of what should be a bunch of fun fights to see. Vellante moving up from light heavyweight. Maurice Green coming off a 2-fight losing streak, but he's fought very good competition. Is this one? Does Maurice Green return to form here and get the best of Vellante?
I believe so. I think this fight's going to be pretty one-sided. I mean, Maurice Green is 6'7", 258 pounds with a 6-inch reach advantage, and he's pretty decent at submissions. I mean, granted, Vellante he's also good at stopping, keeping the fight standing. But at the same time, I just think that Green's going to be too much for him. I think he's just going to wear him down. If I'm looking for something to cut the juice back, I'd probably take the under, or maybe if I can find the right price on Green to win by knockout. But Green is definitely going to win this fight, I feel like.
Well, what do you consider the right price?
Anything at plus money.
I see him to win by knockout at plus 120.
See, I can live with that.
So Green by knockout. Scott, how do you feel about that?
For me, it's actually kind of funny. I think this is going to be the funniest fight of the entire card. The reason why I say that is I was originally looking at the fight itself. And for the record, I don't think Maurice Green is very good. I think he's a huge human being, and I think that he has some submission talent. I don't think he's a very good fighter. And I've seen him fight numerous times. He seems very uncomfortable in the stand-up for somebody with that big of a reach advantage, and I'm not the biggest fan of him. So I was originally looking towards the underdog here at Vellante. However, I saw the height advantage, and then I saw the weight advantage, and there's no way I'm not taking Green. Now, what you might not realize, which is worth mentioning, which is why I find this fight absolutely hilarious. Scott, you've noticed a decent amount of the time we talk about height advantage and reach advantage, right?
Right.
Now, this is a new dimension as we're talking about weight advantage. And the reason why I bring this up is because Vellante is moving up from light heavyweight to heavyweight.
Yeah.
Which means that Green might have a 60-pound weight advantage for this fight, which I think is one of the funniest things I can possibly imagine in my head. And I can't wait for the weigh-in to actually hear it publicly that Green weighs 50 pounds more than his opponent. So, no, I can't take Vellante. As soon as I realized that, Vellante went right out the window. Having said that, I actually do like Vellante's game. I think he's a decent, well-rounded fighter, and I really don't think Green is that good. However, I can't pick against the guy who's minus 230 with a 60-pound advantage and roughly like a 6-inch reach advantage. give or take.
Yeah,
More,
a 6 inch reach advantage, 4 inch height advantage,
and about 60
and
pounds of weight.
what could be a 60-pound weight advantage.
Yeah,
Green,
so for that reason, for value, I'll take Green by decision at plus 420.
okay.
I think this fight will be boring. I agree that Green has the ability to potentially stop the fight, but he just really has not impressed me in his UFC career. I don't think he's that good. I just think this is a decent matchup for him. And Volante is kind of tough, so I think he might be a little bit tougher to stop. I'll take Green by decision plus 420 on Fox Bet.
That's much better value. I was looking at the over in this one at plus 130. I think there's much better value on Green. I'm with you. I don't. I think that he's going to just be able to impose his will.
He could sit on him, and I don't think Volante is going to be able to breathe.
Exploit that size advantage. I like that. I'll ride the Green decision there at plus 420 and add myself almost $3 of value there from plus 130 to plus 420. So yeah, I like that play very much. And Willie, you've got Green, and you've got the under here, Willie.
Yeah, I think Green's going to finish it early. I think he'll get a knockout here.
All right, so we're all on Green. Willie thinks his night's going to he's going to end Volante's night a little earlier. So let's move on to Brendan Allen, all in Allen. Okay, don't hate that.
Not bad. I've heard worse.
Against Kyle Dawkins. Both fighters fighting out of the United States. This is a fight between two guys that definitely have some height, 6'2" and 6'3" respectively. Willie, break this one down for us.
If you're a fan of the ground game like I am, then this fight's for you. I think this one's going to stay on the ground for the most of it. Both of them like to go for the submission. Dawkins has 6, 7, 8 wins under his belt in the amateur circuit by submission. But the problem is he's going against Allen, who has a great ground game, and he took this fight on short notice. If you can find a way to cut the juice back with Allen, I'd take it. But the juice is just so heavy on this that I can't lay 300. I can't lay a minus 300 juice. So if you, and I imagine that the juice for a submission win by him is also pretty hefty.
Well, just to be clear, for the viewers at home, you're saying that Dawkins took the fight on short notice, correct?
Yeah.
Well, looking at Allen to win by submission, he's minus 275 to win by money line on Fox Bet. To win by submission, he is plus 150.
Oh no, I can live with that there. I think that's a very good price there.
Yeah, I think Allen is absolutely the class here. He's looked very good in his two UFC fights. He's a better striker than Dawkins. He's a better wrestler than Dawkins. Scott, Willie, like you said, Dawkins is on short notice. He's making his UFC debut. Definitely a submission guy. The problem is, I think Allen's going to be able to play good enough defense to keep him off of him. I'll go with you, Willie. I like Allen by submission there. By going.
Yeah, by submission. That's what he said.
Oh, you said Allen by sub?
Yeah, Allen by sub.
Oh,
Let me guess. You like decision.
Yeah, I really, but the more I look at it, I think that Allen may be able to break through. Give me a small lean with Willie. Willie, you done talked me into it. I was leaning another way, but I'm gonna lean with you. I think Allen subs him inside the time. Scott, are we gonna make it a 3-pack here, or are Willie and I nuts?
You're definitely not nuts. That's definitely the way that this fight's projected to go. However, I'm actually going to try to take some value. One thing about this card, which I kind of noticed that I was going through it, I'm a huge fan of massive, I'd say, value plays on this card. So you're going to hear a couple long shots. I already mentioned plus 420 in the fight prior. I'm actually going to take Allen by knockout. And this might be a little bit surprising because of the fact that Allen definitely prefers the submission aspect of it. I think Dawkins and Allen are going to go at it on the ground, but Allen does have 5 wins by knockout, and his last win did come by knockout. The issue that I have with Dawkins is kind of like what happened with Roscoff last week, where he kind of quit on his stool. At some point, I just feel like Rokas is just going to run out of gas. I'm afraid that – sorry, Dawkins. I think Dawkins taking it on short notice against a very quality fighter in Brandon Allen, I think he's going to run out of gas, and I think Allen has a very, very significant advantage in the stand-up. And I think that if Allen's able to stifle the takedown attempts, I think Allen might just want to keep the fight in the stand-up because he knows that Daukaus can only win on the ground. And I really think that he's just going to pick him apart. Do I think that it's realistic for him to win by submission? Of course. But in reality, FoxBet has Allen to win by knockout at plus 250, and FanDuel has him to win by knockout at plus 420. I'll take the extra $1.70 of value, and I'll take Allen to win by knockout at plus 420.
All right, yeah, I don't hate that.
Would it shock you if Daukaus quit on his stool like what we saw last week? Not really.
You know,
stamina is such a huge issue for these fighters on short notice.
Yeah, that is the problem. You wonder about how the cardio is going to be. And if he quits on his stool, is that a TKO?
That's a TKO if he quits on his stool.
Yeah, that's I don't think that's likely to happen. But
no, I'm just saying based on the stamina, he might just at some point he can't move. He just might not be able to defend himself intelligently.
Be overwhelmed. Yeah, that's certainly a possibility, as it always is, especially working on short notice. So.
This isn't one of my favorite plays, but I'm getting an extra $1.70 if you compare books. So I'll take the extra $1.70 there and take the plus 420 once again. Same number as the fight before on the knockout with Allen.
All right, very good. All right.
So you're still on the submission bandwagon?
I still am. I think there's just as good a chance that he could run out of gas on the ground.
I agree.
And get submitted. The plus 420, I would probably even playing the submission. I would probably take a little sprinkle.
It's worth a sliver, a little sprinkle.
Yeah, a quarter to a half on that, just to be on the right side of it if it came in. I'm with you. That's a tremendous amount of value. When you told me what 240 at first, I'm like, okay. And then when you said they have it at 420, I'm like, that's definitely an attention getter there. So guys, let's talk about one of the truly what do we call him? Unique individuals in the UFC is Mike Platinum Perry goes up against Mickey Gall. What do you say about Perry? He's going to have a very unique corner for this one. Willie, who's going to be in Mike Perry's corner for this one? Do you know?
It's his girlfriend, correct?
It's his girlfriend. That's right. Very good. He's elected to go with no cornermen, no coaches, no managers, no cut guys, no seconds. He's going to have his girlfriend there. So, Willie, how's that going to go for him? Does it matter?
Okay, so Perry is 2-5 his last 7 fights, and he does have the knockout power to win here, but he's also given up some pretty good size here to Mickey Gall. And the only way I feel like Gall is going to win this is to get it on the ground and win by submission. And I feel like with his size, it's going to be hard for Perry to keep him standing up. I just feel like Gall is eventually going to get it to the ground, and he's eventually going to submit him.
Do you want to know the price on Gall by submission?
I do.
Plus 400, actually.
That's a healthy price.
I like that. That's exactly. I had a sprinkle on Gall by submission. I also don't hate the over 1.5 on this one. He's coming off, like Willie said, he's 2-5 over his last 7 is Perry, and he's also coming off getting knocked out for the first time in his career. And sometimes, you know what, that changes a guy. He's definitely a knockout guy. 85% of his wins have come by that way. He's perhaps, I don't know, perhaps the head's catching up with him. I just don't know. He hasn't looked good lately, and I don't like him here. I think Gall's going to be able to take him to the ground. Scott?
Well, for the record, I saw plus 400 on Gall by submission on FoxBet. FanDuel was plus 500, so you get an extra $1 value at plus 500 on the sub there. I definitely like it for that price. Having said that, there's no value on Perry by knockout at minus 145. There's absolutely no value there. Based on the fight itself, simply put, I do agree that Gall needs to take it to the ground in order to win. However, Mickey Gall is one of the worst stand-up fighters I've ever seen in the history of the UFC, with the exception of maybe CM Punk. Gall is actually that bad in the stand-up. He is terrible when it comes to the stand-up. So I'm not surprised that there's a lot of money on Perry here to win and by knockout. However, for that value alone, I'm going to take Perry and Gall's fight to end in the first round at plus 175 on FoxBet. this fight's going to end quickly. Either Gall's going to take it to the ground and his girlfriend's going to start screaming random instructions that don't make any sense, and Gall's going to win by submission, or Perry's going to take his head off. And I think this fight could end in a minute. So for that reason, I'm just going to take the fight to end in the first round at plus 175 and just call it a day.
Okay, so you're seriously fading my over in that one.
Yeah. The issue that I have is that the thing about what people don't understand also with regard to the lack of fans in the crowd is that the people have noticed that you can hear the coaches talk in the middle of the rounds, right? And the coaches scream a ton of instructions when it comes to either submission defense or anything like that. They're telling you, oh, grab his leg, hook your arm around, make sure he doesn't get whatever. What do you think his girlfriend's going to tell him? Like, if Perry gets taken down, he might actually have no idea what the hell he's doing on the ground. Now, Perry has a little bit of a background with wrestling, but he definitely prefers to be in the stand-up, and Gall is he's basically a Brazilian jiu-jitsu prodigy. So I think he will know what to do. And Perry doesn't really need to be told, just throw a bunch of punches until you connect with his head and the guy hits the ground. I think the fight's going to end in very, very quickly, especially with the small octagon in the Apex Center. This fight at 10 in the first 60 seconds is plus 900. Don't hate that either. But I think that the fight 10 in the first round plus 175, I got to take that. I think this fight's going to end relatively quickly.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. As you and I will definitely be we will be on opposite sides.
For the value at plus 175, I think it's worth it.
Well, when they get to end of round one, can you at least root for me to go another minute, 2.5 minutes?
I'll let you root for it. Willie, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm with you on that because I do believe that Perry is going to be motivated, especially considering how poorly he's been fighting here lately. But I just think it's going to be one of these weird fights that it could go the distance or it could end within probably 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I see it going two ways realistically. I see either Gall getting clipped immediately by a Perry right hand and Gall hits the deck and it's over. Or Gall just sprints across and goes for an immediate takedown attempt and then just submits him in basically a minute. That's how I see the fight going. It is possible to go longer, but Gall in his last fight really insisted on showcasing his quote-unquote stand-up ability, and he looked awful. I don't know. This is one of those fights that I think is very interesting, but I'll take the plus price any way I can find it. Plus 500, though, on the sub, definitely a good price for the two of you. I definitely can understand that value.
All right. Very good. Scott's using air quotes, so
I have to. Gall actually bragged about going to a new camp, working on his stand-up, and he talked about how he purposefully tried to not take his opponent down his last fight just to showcase the stand-up, and he looked awful. He won the fight, but he looked really bad in the stand-up. So, yeah, he's got a little bit of an ego complex, just to keep that in mind.
Okay. I'll keep that in my hip pocket for sure. All right. Well, let's take a look at the main event, shall we? This is Dustin the Diamond Poirier against Dan the Hangman Hooker. Not bad at all, Dan. Guys, is this main event worthy, Willie?
I think so. Well, if you look at the entire card, especially, I mean, what else are you going to go with here for your main event? But I think it's going to be a pretty exciting fight. It's going to be an interesting one, I think. And do we have a total on this fight? Where is it? About 2.5?
Let me look for that. I believe it's at 3.5, but let me check. Really
I've got it at 2. I've got 2.5 juiced over to minus 135.
Yeah, and I can agree with that because I have a feeling that this one's probably going to end relatively early.
So you're getting a price there on the under. You're getting +1. You're getting plus money on the under 2.5. Very nice.
I'm trying to find the exact number here. I see 2.5 at minus 118 on both sides on Fox Bet. If you want the under 1.5, it's plus 135. I don't know which way Willie wants to lean there, but those are different numbers available.
So Willie, you think this is going to go quick?
Well, I don't know that I would say maybe 1 or 2 rounds, but I definitely don't think this one's going the distance.
Okay. Scotty, you got any thoughts there?
This is my huge value play of the evening, And I actually have an opposing opinion to Willy. I actually think this fight is going to go the distance. I think that this fight is going to be an absolute war. I think it's going to be very similar to Hooker's last fight against Felder. I do agree that Poirier has a lot more power than Felder, but I do think that this fight is going to be a war, and I think that over 2.5 is, I think, a relatively safe play for this fight. I found out a fun fact, though, that I think you'll appreciate, Scott.
Yeah.
I found out that Hooker's last fight, he beat Felder, okay, in a controversial split decision, which I thought he actually lost. Either or, I found out that no fighter ever has beaten Paul Felder and won their next fight.
Really?
It's never happened. If you beat Paul Felder, you have lost your next fight 100% of the time.
Well, that makes me like my play. I like Poirier by submission.
Really? Okay, I like it. You're going for some value there. Okay, I didn't see that coming.
What can I get there, Scott?
Poirier by submission is let me see what that is. It's plus 1,100.
Yeah, that's. I think that's going to be my long shot of the day. Well, obviously it's the last fight. I haven't taken anything nearly with that kind of value. But Poirier, he throws a lot of good combinations. The thing I like about him is Hooker just keeps his hands down. He's going to get hit. I think Poirier ultimately wants to take him down. I think because he knows he's going to be better on the ground than Hooker is, and I like Poirier by submission. Plus 1,100. I was hoping it would be. I was hoping for plus 9. So 11 is. It's just a little icing on the cake there. For me.
Well, I didn't even mention my play yet. I just mentioned the one statistic about everyone losing after their fight with Felder. I'm going with an even bigger long shot here.
Okay.
And it's going to be based on the decision. I was looking at some props on Fox Bet, and one thing that we've agreed on, Scott, no matter how long we've been going through the UFC, is that the judges tend to not be that great. That's something that we've talked about in the past, and how there has been some value if you want to go with some controversial decisions, etc.
Perhaps some minor inconsistencies, if you will.
I was looking at one prop, and I saw Poirier to win by split or majority decision at plus 1,000 on Fox Bet. However, I looked offshore, and I found the exact same price. I found the exact same bet, at plus 1,683 offshore. So I'm going to put a sprinkle on Poirier by split or majority decision at plus 1,683. And I'll mention the name of the book. I don't know if I should, so I'm not going to, but I'll take a screenshot of it.
All right, good enough.
What do you think of that? Just for complete.
I think that's great. Now, see, I thought you'd given your play as as Poirier to go to the distance. So I didn't mean to cut you off before your play.
It's fine. I was originally going to take Poirier by decision only plus 400, but then I'm realizing, like, wait a second. There's 3 judges. One of them always goes rogue, and even if there's a tie, majority decision just means if one judge also rules for a tie and the other 2 Poirier, you still win. So I'll throw in a sprinkle at plus 1,683. And just see what happens. Besides, I lose the main event every time anyway, so I might as well make a joke out of it, right?
Absolutely, you might. It's just like fishing, man. If you're not going to be catching fish, you might as well not be.
I'm not going for the trout. I'm going for the Michael Jordan 400-pound marlin. That's what I'm going for.
Very nice, Willie. Any thoughts on our 2 crazy plays?
I like them because I don't know really what to make of this fight because I could see it going a ton of different ways. I think
Poirier
Hooker's
should
not
win.
a slouch in his own right.
I think Poirier should win the fight. I think the method is definitely a question mark because I don't know if you agree with me that I thought Felder won the fight against Hooker. I thought Felder won the fight personally. It was very close, and it was a split decision as a result. But I just think Poirier's better. I just think he's a better fighter. I think it's close, and I think that this fight could go either way because both fighters are very unique with their stand-up style. I don't know. I mean, Scott mentioned submission. I mentioned split decision. I feel like you can take Poirier money line if you want to be safe, or take the over, or take whatever you want to think with the distance, or even Poirier inside the distance at like plus 110. But I don't know. I decided to, splurge a little bit for some value. But that's just my 2 cents on it.
All right. Very good. Very good. We can all agree that Hooker doesn't really have much of a shot in this one.
I wouldn't say it doesn't have much of a shot because I do think that Hooker is a very talented fighter. I just think Poirier has more power, which I think will be on display, especially since Poirier's been in some wars before, most notably his absolute war against Gaethje a couple years ago where he won by knockout later on in that fight. My safe play in this fight's the over 2.5. I think this fight will actually be a relatively longer one because I do think that both fighters are aware of the other's strengths in the stand-up, and I think they will be a little bit I don't want to say conservative early on, but I don't think they're going to go for broke early on. I wouldn't be surprised to see Poirier win by 4th or 5th round knockout or by submission later on in the fight. But I see an extra $600 or $6 of value offshore for a split or majority decision. I'm going to take that to the bank. I have to. That's just too much value for me.
Yeah, I agree. Anytime you're talking about anything over 10-1, you've got to take a long look at it.
I have a choice of 10-1 or 16.8-1. I'll take the 16.8.
Obviously even better.
Yep.
So yeah, very good. All right, guys. Well, this will be like I said, this will be night one of our double feature here between Willy being on with the Thursday and Friday, and NASCAR with their double header. Of course, UFC will kick it all off on Saturday night. Should be a lot of fun. Willy, thanks very much for stopping by today, man. We appreciate it as always.
I appreciate you having me.
What do you got going on over there at Winners and Winers right now that people ought to know about, buddy?
We're still pumping out with Winners and Winers and Stat Salt. We're still pumping out daily CS:GO and League of Legends articles. Be giving picks out. We're still doing pretty good. I think we're still up. I was on a roll there for about 3 days straight of no losses in the LPL from the League of Legends. So I'd say we're doing pretty good right now.
Get on board the Willy Express, folks. We talk about this guy knows his stuff when it comes to esports, and I know that you've heard him on here before. So absolutely get yourself over to Winners and Winers and Stat Salt. Check out Winning Willy laying it down on the esports situation. And of course, couldn't have done it without him. Scott, thanks for riding shotgun here today, and yeah, had a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely good to be here. I'm also still keeping tabs on some golf plays that I currently have. So far, sorry, Willy, Justin Thomas, who I picked to win the thing, not doing well. It's kind of unfortunate. He's +2 through 6. Not great. One of my picks actually win the thing. But I also got him over Morikawa, and Morikawa's right now +2, and him finished -2. So, is what it is.
All right. You're hanging in there. It's good to know. And yeah, it'll be just 40 minutes, Scott. You'll be able to watch golf, so I should be.
Can't wait. I'm going to be able to catch the back 9 on the final group for about 2 hours. That's great stuff.
All right. And on that note, I think that's how we started the show, with Scott being unhappy about golf. And we're going to close it that way too. We thank all of you for stopping by. Of course, checking out the videos each and every day. Tell your friends. You got to stop by and check out what's happening today in sports betting. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk a little NASCAR, and then Scott and I are going to delve into this monstrosity. This wonderful thing that is going to be the Major League Baseball season. We're going to take a look at that on Saturday. So that should be a hoot and a half, everybody. So make sure you stop by the next couple of days. Check out Today in Sports Betting. For all of us, for Scott Steen, for Scott Reichel, for Will Mormon, and Winning Willy, we appreciate you guys all each and every day. Thanks very much for stopping by. Be healthy, everybody. Be well. Good luck on all your plays today. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.